Hello everyone, I think it's finally time to talk about the legendary gear for Darkblight, that being the legendary weapons and the legendary armor, right? We should be getting legendary accessories eventually, and we are getting some new, not legendary, some new epic Churchill gear accessories, but those are not very important, so I'm not gonna bother too much with that, even though it's something that you should keep in mind is getting put in the game probably this week or next week, but regardless. Let's talk about the legendary gear. First, the thing many people are asking me is which legendary weapon I'm picking. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, you're gonna want to pick the legendary one regardless. And that is just because the legendary one has a lot of base damage. It's the highest base damage of the ones. So you're gonna want to just pick that up because higher base damage on the one means more damage on your curses, right? So you cannot just skip on that. I did make a build that I was testing for the exception. If you're gonna play with Devon, Awakened Devon 1, the damage is still lower by a decent chunk compared to the legendary. However, you can play with it, and that allows you to unlock the legendary daggers, which you can use as a stat stick to change based on your needs. And then you can put like other passives that you might need on it. For example, the Delos Noah passive, the Birkin's passive for the dagger, or the one that I think most people care about, the Tavern's passive. And that's because the Tavern dagger itself is pretty bad for us. It gives dex, uh, and gives crit, and gives bonus damage. It's similar to the Tavern 1, but the difference Tevent 1 has cooldown reduction compared to Tevent's dagger that has bonus damage, which is very useless for us, plus the traits. So this is the one case scenario and something that you could do. You could keep the Tevent 1 so you can keep the cooldown. In exchange, you're gonna lose a little bit of damage on the base and max damage compared to the unique one, the legendary one. But in exchange, you can make the legendary dagger and use that as stat stick. So you can use like the Tevin dagger awaken passive and still have like good status or decent status because you're gonna be getting attack speed from it. You're gonna be getting dex from it, and then you can just change based on your need here. So just keep that in mind for the legendary weapon. Most of the time, you're gonna want the legendary one. But in case you have the legendary, oh, you have the Tevin Awakened Dagger and the Tevin Awakened one. This is an interesting scenario that you might want to try because that means you can like change your build with, you can have like it's gonna be easier to take advantage of the status of the Devon one compared to the Devon dagger. That's what I'm trying to say. You lose a bit of damage, but you can use the status of the cooldown much better than the bonus damage from the dagger. Alright, sorry. Regardless, now let's talk about the legendary armor. If you are new, I would still stick to the pre-legendary update that I made here because it's way cheaper and still gonna be decent because it's gonna take a long time for people to grind out the legendary things. So you can just stick to the pre-legendary builds. But in case you want to start focusing on the legendary builds, I did a few legendary builds that I think could work. I kept some of the budget sets because I think that's gonna be for the most players, right? Most people. One thing I'll say is you should pick this based on a few different things. The first thing you should learn is that every time you do a raid that drops the legendary gear, the chance of getting an armor is four times more likely than getting a weapon. I think something like that, or five times more likely. So you're gonna be getting most of the times, and everyone in the game is gonna get most of the times armor pieces. And this is important because one thing that you're gonna want to do really soon, really quick, is get your armor piece because you're gonna get most of the times armor pieces, and check the main heroic effects, the main status traits here. Because changing a single one of those lines is gonna be very costly. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 800 purple stones, the trait stones, and 30 of the Kalancha shards. So it's mega expensive. And that's why I'm making this point really on the build. Because a lot of people ask, "Oh, is the cloak the best one? Is the chest the best one? Is the gloves the best one?" And all of them have different perks and different positions. But the biggest benefit right now is that you can basically swap them around almost in every piece of gear. I did this here to show you that. It's very easy to fit them in the setup. You just need to swap some gear here and there, but it's very easy to fit any of the pieces of the gear. So that's what I'm saying. You should try to get pieces of gear that have evasion as a trait and heavy attack if it's a possible role here, and then probably one status or something else like max HP and work around that. Because if you can do that in first place, it's gonna save you a lot of grind, a lot of grind. Because you already need to do that on your weapon. You're gonna need to not only unlock the traits, which you might buy with Lucent, but you're probably gonna you have to use your trait stones. But then you're gonna have to change your heroic effect, and there's the heroic trait you have to unlock, and the same goes for the armor piece, and probably the same goes for the accessory piece. So that's one mistake that I did. I already start to unlock stuff, and I already set on a build on start. To be very direct with you, this is the build that I'm going for. This is the build that I was playing before, and I really like it. I like the weaken chance, I like the heavy chance. I'm okay with the evasion, even though it's not that high. I think it's enough for me to play the game and have like really good offensive. So this is the build that I set up to follow, and I do regret it because I managed to get a weapon and I didn't check my status. I just traded it. I bought the trades with Lucent, and now I'm stuck with it. And I only have like 1,000 trade stones, and I need to swap the heroic effects. And then I have the cloak, and then I'm gonna need to swap all the heroic effects of the cloak, and that's gonna cost like 3,000 trade stones, which is insane. Plus the Kalantia shards, which is gonna take weeks to grind. So that's the first thing that I would do. Instead of setting up on a single build, because I don't think that's smart. I would wait for the pieces that I'm gonna be grinding for weekly to drop and check which one has like decent roll of status or heroic effects, right? The line of status that I want, and I would set on that. The reason I'm saying that is because it's gonna be a very, very long grind, and with the accessories that's probably gonna come with the legendary accessories, is gonna be even bigger of a grind. And right now, it's just like really not feasible to like try to aim for a specific build instead of like uh, playing with what you get. So that's my first advice I would do. Is check out builds, check out if you want to change something. All of the builds follow the same concept that I have always been playing. That is having a decent amount of heavy, a decent amount of weaken, and a decent amount of evasion, or being something that is more of a melee evasion slash hit build with lower heavy. Uh, but they all follow the same concept and try to like work with what you get of gear. In my opinion, the cloak is the best piece of unique gear, the legendary gear, but it's also the most expensive to trade. Not only because the traits are gonna be more expensive for because it's the cloak, right? It's the most expensive already base gear, but also because getting the heroic trait, which is very very important, so you can get decent evasion numbers, is gonna be impossible. For example, I spent already like 3,000 lucent on it, and I only have the first evasion. I only have 40 evasion here, and I think for me to get to the 160 evasion, I'm gonna need other traits of the evasion cloak, the heroic traits. That's gonna take a lot of time and a lot of money. Meanwhile, if I had spent the 3,000 on the legendary helmet or the legendary gloves on my server, I would have done already fully traded on 160 evasion. So that's what I'm saying. If you're on a budget, don't pick the cloak. Okay, even though I think it's the best in slot, and the reason why it's the best in slot is because all the cloaks are basically three liners, right? They're all three liners. All the cloaks are three liners, and with the buffs you get a five liner, right? So you're going from 3 lines of status to 5 lines compared to all the other gear pieces. The chest is an exception because it's also a 3 liner, but it's 3 lines that you use, so it's good. The cloak is usually 2 lines that you use, and a lot of times you get useless things. For example, this one's health regen, which is useless. This one is bonus damage, which is useless. You get the idea. Usually you lose this status, so it's really solid to pick the cloak. I think it's the best in slot, but I think it's the most expensive to trade, and it's gonna be the harder one to heroic trade, and it's gonna be so expensive. There's another point you should do. The reason why I don't put 1 point on perception in everything, or 1 point on status on everything, is because heroic traits are gonna be insanely expensive. Just don't count on heroic traits. I see a lot of people making endgame builds that have heroic traits fully maxed. That's not gonna be your reality unless you're a mega whale or like the luckiest person in the world. You're not gonna have heroic traits fully traded in like a year, probably. Not even kidding. Uh, and the same goes for the artifacts and chaotic runes. As many of you know from my last video, I don't like to implement like perfect artifacts and perfect chaotic runes because I don't think that's real status. I see a lot of builds that have like full food, full perfect stones, full castle, all the perfect artifacts, all the chaotic runes, and then you can get like some insane stat lines that looks like perfect. But the truth is, there's so much RNG on it, there's so much grind behind on it that I don't think it's fair. So all the builds here are like using the same baselines that I always set, the things that you can get very easily, and then you can improve on it. So when you check those status here, you're gonna think, oh, that's some low melee evasion. But remember, you can get like more melee evasion from the artifacts here. You can get chaotic runes and it's gonna increase this melee evasion. You can get the food around it. You can get stones, rift and bone stones that is gonna improve it. So this is literally the baseline, and you can improve on it. But as I was saying on the legendary gear, that's the builds that I set here. This is the build that I would go if I'm on a budget, something that is more focused on having decently high heavy, because a lot of heavy attack evasion just got in the game. So I would focus on keeping the high thing, so you can keep focusing healers and tanks. The next thing you're gonna need is having a decent weekend chance. Sadly, the legendary gear is actually terrible for us on weekend chance, because we lose the status that comes from the resonance weekend chance from the normal one, and we lose usually on pieces of gear. For example, if you change the chest, you're gonna be losing the chosen weekend chance. If you change the helmet, you're gonna be losing the sacred weekend chance from the helmet. And even the gloves, if you change for example Spectral, you're also gonna be losing the weekend chance from that. So keep in mind that your weekend chance in this update is going a bit lower than it should. So it's a bit hard to keep all the status on a decent line. With that said, I made a few different builds. Most of them are going to be focused on have weaken or just having decent evasions, and a few is going to be focused on having hit, because that's another thing that came with this patch, and is the weapons allow us to get 2 lines of hit, which is insane. It's a lot of hit plus your normal trait. And another detail, the gloves also allow you to get double hit line, which means that if you can do all of that, you can say this is kind of a budget build, and you can already hit 2.8 thousand magic hit chance. You probably can get a little bit more with the artifacts and some of the masters, so you can get around 3,000 hit chance. Then you gotta remember, you also have the earring buffs, you have the back attack buffs, you have the smoke buff, so you can end up reaching upwards to 3.6 thousand hit chance, which is insane. So that's a thing that you also gotta keep in mind for this patch. People that build to hit you will hit you, okay? Even if you go after evasion, if the guy decided to make his build around hit chance, he is gonna hit you most of the times. I think even crossbows, the X-bow with daggers, are not safe anymore, because the hit that is in the game right now is insanely high. Like, I think, I didn't check the math. You probably can check on some other people that play like some high hit class, like Jeho that plays Gladiator. But I'm quite sure you can hit even upwards to like 5,000 hit, which is insane. That's what I'm saying. Like, you should build for people that build to do damage, uh, and not worry about it. Because if the guy's gonna hit you, he's gonna hit you. You're not gonna be able to evade that. That's just how it works right now. And that's another big thing of the legendary gear. Set on something. If you decide, I'm gonna make a build that's gonna be focused on hitting, you're gonna have to waste so much resources to get to that point, and you're not gonna be able to go back. If you set on the one for the hit and the gloves for the hit, go for it and don't go back because it's gonna be way too costly to swap. For example, I'm going for the, like I said, the heavy, right? I'm going for 1.6 thousand heavy, uh, and I'm ready to set on that. And if I'm gonna end up fighting with people that I'm gonna miss, I'm just gonna have to live with it and accept that I'm gonna miss the targets I have evasion. Because I'm not gonna be able to change to hit at any point. It's gonna be way too costly to make this, and to build another one of those is gonna be probably impossible as well. It's gonna be, I mean, imagine 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, you probably can start having different types of uniques. I imagine upgrades will come that will change that. But right now, keep that in mind that once you set on a build, you're not gonna be able to go back on it because it's too costly to change legendary gear. So do take that into consideration. Keep in mind what build you want to do. Keep in mind what's the focus on your build. If it's killing tanks, healers, or killing DPSs, and follow on onto it. Another thing I want to say before moving on is this one has insanely high range, but has really high, like slow attack speed. So, for example, if we were using the Deckman before, the Deckman is 0.40 something, 45 I think attack speed. This one is almost 0.6, 0.57. So it's like 20 to 25% slower than the Deckman, which is crazy. It's very slow. So most of the rooms here, except in places that I couldn't do that, are changed to attack speed, so you can have decent attack speed on the your skills as one. That's another reason why the cloak is good. You have attack speed here, and the gloves is also decent because it has attack speed on the traits. So keeping that in mind, you might feel like your animations are not going through or canceling, and you feel like it's a bit clunky, and it's gonna be because of the attack speed of the one being much slower. On the same topic though, the advantage is the range has not never been this high. The range for this one is insane, and you can even see on this, since I'm changing the one, I'm changing the cloak, so I'm not gonna be able to use the weekend chance cloak, the Billy Drench cloak, right? Another thing that I did is, since I have already so much heavy attack from the original build here, as you can see, uh, I changed the Pakila ring, the rune anvil, for the distant echoes. You can change for the sun, the moon. I think it's moon something. 1 second. Sinking sun. One. If you don't have the distant echoes one, because the one is nebula, right? And the reason why I did that is because by doing that with this current build, you can almost reach 30 meters range, which will allow you to execute and salvage so many more plays. So I thought changing the little bit of heavy for this is definitely worth it. It's just something that you can keep in mind. With this one, you can push for really high range, and that also happens because of the cloak that has range traits, and you can also do on the gloves that also has the range traits on the legendary. So it's something to keep in mind that on this patch you have really high range with the wand, so you can build on top of it. It's definitely worth it to keep that in mind and try to work around it to get something like from 25 to 30 meters of range. Let's see. Another detail of why I'm recommending swapping the Pakila ring for this is not only because we have really high heavy, and like the min max, the best someone's gonna get is gonna be around 1.4 thousand heavy attack evasion. So you need to have, if you have around 1.4, it's already a lot and it should be enough for most situations, so you don't need to worry. That's why I swapped the Pakila ring. But the other big reason is that the Pakila ring doesn't have weaken chance, and the distant echoes and the sun signet both have weaken chance traits, which will definitely help you like to even out your weaken chance. You can see I have 1.5k here, and you can also improve that on artifacts and on your chaotic runes. So I think I have dabbled a lot. Both links are going to be in the description. I hope everything that I said makes sense to you, and if not, that's okay. Feel free to look for other builds. I recommend joining the Darkblight Discord and checking the Wakanda channel. It has a lot of builds from many One Dagger players and even some other class players that you can use for your base and try to take your own conclusions. Just a reminder, I do say that you should grind your legendary gear and wait for the gear to come with decent status, because like I said, changing all of those on the weapon, you're probably gonna take whatever, because if you got the one, you got the one. It's gonna be really hard to grind for another one or to buy another one from the shop. But for the armor, I do suggest you to have more patience, wait to see what you get, and stick to something that comes with decent status, and then build around that. Unless you're going for something specific like the hit build, then it needs to be the gloves. But I think that's about it. Like I said, the cloak is the best, but it's gonna be the most expensive. So keep that in mind. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry for babbling too much, and see you around. Thank you.